Alrighty, this is a Mechabellum bug report video. So the bug report I'm going to be doing is about aerial specialization, the tech. So we're going to be using a marksman because it's a very clear, distinct shot pattern. And this is what people are currently saying about it. People are saying that aerial specialization has targeting priority on air if they are within 30 meters of a ground unit and they are within the marksman's range. However, this is false. What it is actually doing, it is subtracting 30 range from the flying unit. So these phantom rays here, for example, are being treated as if they're standing here instead. And we can prove this by, we'll demonstrate this first so you can see what I'm talking about. So it shoots the phantom ray, shoots the phantom ray, shoots the phantom ray. And that's the behavior people are saying is prioritizing air if it's within 30 meters of a ground targeting unit and it's within its radius. However, if we scoot this over here, once again, it's still within the 30 range, except for this one over here. And it has to kill these Mustangs in order to target the phantom ray. The first one gets killed, second one gets killed. Now it has to shoot down here and eliminate these. It has to kill, I believe, these two before it can fire on that left one. There we go. Now, why is that? It's because the game is subtracting the range, so it thinks they're somewhere around here because horizontal distance, or I should say, excuse me, diagonal distance is a little bit different because it's longer to go diagonally than it is to go vertically or horizontally. So the calculation is somewhere around this range right here. And this is the proof for it. So what we're going to do is we're going to summon some wraiths on top of the marksman. We're going to put one right here. The character model of the wraith is something like this. It's a little bit smaller than the circle that summons the wraith. We're going to put one over here. We're going to put one back here. And then we'll just have those set up. And then these crawlers are going to rush in here and surround the marksman. So the reason we're putting the wraith on every side of the marksman is so there's no bias in terms of its facing. Because the marksman has some sort of vision cone that kind of looks a little bit like this. And that helps it determine what to shoot at. So that's why sometimes your units will walk in certain directions, is because it has a weighted vision base on where it's currently facing. So surrounding the race on all sides here will help it determine where it should be shooting. So we'll go ahead and start here. There we go. So as we can see, it has its pick of the litter, and yet it only decides to shoot the wraith kind of randomly. Now it's going back to shooting crawlers. Shooting crawlers, shooting crawlers. Now it's aiming a little bit at the left one. If it had air priority, why is it not targeting the wraith first in this example? It's because it's just subtracting the distance. And because the crawlers and the wraith are both basically zero distance, it's kind of just picking and choosing which one to shoot. Now, maybe they load it into an array. Maybe it's some sort of weighted system. I'm not sure exactly how they're doing it. But this specific example shows that despite the fact that it was surrounded on all sides by air units, it had no priority on picking them. And we summoned them within a 30-meter distance. If we switch sides and we go to the marksman here, and we pull a rhino, we can see that the race we summoned in were about here, which is in the 30-unit distance. And that goes to show that there is no air priority. It's subtracting the distance. And there's other ways we can show this too. Okay, so in this instance, we have a little bit of a difference here. The wasp are a little bit smaller. So if we were to scooch these three forward, 1, 2, 3, we can see that the front group of wasp there would be on top of those fangs. So they'll be shot first. However, if we look, and I'll use an arrow on screen somewhere around here to point that there is a fang ahead of that leftmost wasp in the back that will need to be killed first before that wasp can be targeted. All right, so we'll go ahead and put it back, and we'll start. And I believe it was this fang right here will have to die. I'm going to keep this one highlighted. And see how it's having to target some of these fangs in order to kill these wasps? And that's because of the positioning. All right, there's that one, there's that one, there's that one. This was the key one, though. There we go. Now it's shooting this one back here. Even though there's plenty of other targets here. That's because there's no priority on the air, it's subtracting the distance. And of course, if I said anything wrong during this, please let me know. Or if I tested in a way that didn't seem fair and you have an idea what I could do, I will respond to you after testing down in the comments based on what you said. But this makes things like flanking on the side not appealing, because then you get situations like this. So what if we were on the side over here and your goal was to try to create some sort of aerial backline with your ground units? Well, all they have to do currently is place anti-air spec on, and your air units die before they get a chance to do anything, even though there's valid ground targets in range. The only way to change this is if you move your air units back further to put them out of the distance subtraction range. But even then, it only lasts a little bit before one of your air units is shot. And this is what this looks like if you were to move those units up by 30. There we go. We can see that the character model now lines up, and you can see which fangs need to die first based on where the character model is, or I should say unit model. Now, I've been playing this game for quite some time, and if I was a new player and somebody picked aerial specialization and it behaved differently, as it does here with every single shot it was taking, I'd be quite confused on exactly what this was doing. So I'm not sure what's going on in the back end for it to be subtracting the range of these units. I'm guessing that when it's targeting the air units, it's increasing the range by 30. It might be doing something where it's taking inside this current range and subtracting the distance first, and then applying something else to it in order to get its damage, right? Because if we were to back this marksman all the way up, and we were to put these a little bit further forward to demonstrate, if you have your marksman here, and we go ahead and we move him, he will now correctly target the Phoenix because he has no valid ground target in range, and now the aerial specialization will target the Phoenix in the back line, as we could see with this range indicator here. It goes to 170 because it's targeting the air. So in that instance, where the units are all outside the original radius of the marksman, it is now looking for air units at the extra 30 range. So just think of this circle here being extended as if it was like that, but, you know, an additional bit of bonus there. And that's basically what it's doing when it's looking with the air spec when there are no valid targets within range. But if there are valid targets within range, it is subtracting the air unit distance. Something I almost forgot to mention. Then there's the other camp of people who would ask this question. Why would it not subtract the distance of the Phoenix if the Fangs are in range and the Phoenix are not in range? Because if we do this, we're going to have to give these guys a little bit of bonus help on their distance here so they don't move. There we go. We gave them a little bit of extra range so they don't move at all. Same thing with the Phoenix. So we hit start here. It's only going to kill the fangs until all the fangs are dead. And I'll just go ahead and fast forward this footage here. There we go. So in this instance, the question that would be asked is, why didn't it subtract the distance of the Phoenix? It's because it has valid ground targets in range that it's not looking the additional 34 air units. So essentially, these are not being included in any sort of, let's say, an array it would load the targets into. So because the fangs are the only thing being loaded into its targeting, the Phoenix aren't even part of the equation, and that's why it's not targeting the Phoenix in this case. Because the Phoenix are outside its initial range, it doesn't even see them as a target, so it can't subtract the distance if they're not able to be targeted at all in this radius. And this kind of also goes to say, like, if this had some sort of priority to it, why is it not including these Phoenixes, which are within its extra 30 when attacking aerial units? And maybe that's the key of it, when attacking aerial units. And since they're not part of the array, they can't be, quote unquote, when attacked, since they're not even part of the targeting in the first place, and that would explain the behavior. And this is also a confusing thing to, like, a new player, which I think I talk about in the next part of this video. I came back and recorded this because I forgot to do this while I was making the initial recording, so I had to come back and do this part. So, what do you guys think? Did I test this in a fair manner to show that it doesn't have air priority by using the Wraith and Crawler setup? Or do you think there was some sort of inherent bias there because I was trying to prove my point, or I was trying to disprove something so much that I would believe something that wasn't true? You know, like how you have a bias towards your own opinion. Just let me know what your guys' thoughts is. And like I said, if I did anything wrong in this testing, please point it out to me so I could do fair testing. I would like them to take a look at this and use this little bit of data here to help them determine what's going on. What I believe is happening is this 30 is being subtracted. So that hopefully is something easy they can look into, and I hope they get it fixed, or at the very least, if this is working how they want it to, and it is subtracting the distance, just update the tooltip. Just say, hey, it looks at air units that are within 30 meters or whatever. So this is some sort of description update. Like, I don't care if it works this way on purpose. I just want this to reflect that, if that's the case.